Today I'm joined by Joe Cemlyn-Jones. He's represented Great Britain at the 2021 World Championships. I think you actually were second all round at the British Championships, Joe, right?
I was, that is correct.
So a very successful year. Competed at the Commonwealth Games and recently just competed at the Northern Europeans for Team Wales. To start off with, Joe, just tell us, how's your ankle? Because I watched a YouTube video over the weekend, and I've said to you before, me and Ozzy, we like watching your YouTube video when it comes out on a Sunday in the middle of the night when I'm trying to get him back to sleep. And obviously it looked like you performed pretty well, but got an injury to your ankle. So how is your ankle today?
Yeah, the ankle's okay. Luckily, it was just a sprain and nothing else. But it was a great comp, and I don't actually know how I even sprained my ankle. Like you said, you've seen the video, I landed okay, but it just felt like a crunch in the landing, and I was like, walked it off. And it was one of those ones that you walk off, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's not walking off. It's actually still there. So, unfortunately that happened, but doing okay, and it's getting better. So,
Those vault landings, Joe, like for me, sometimes I'd land and I'd feel like I've landed fine, but they're just that much harder at a competition, aren't they? And it's so difficult to force yourself to train on them in the lead up to the comp because you don't want something like that to happen. And especially, I think sometimes if you're landing a vault where you're landing back on yourself, so you're not doing a 2.5 or a double front, you're stepping forwards, there is always that risk, even if you land perfectly, that you're just going to crunch your ankles a little bit. Like it happens so often, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, in training, you never really land on the properly hard mats. Like we actually don't even do vault over hard in training. We're in the pit with a mat. We never replicate that hard landing. In competition, you've just got to send it. And I think I forced the stick a bit too much.
Okay.
And I think I just had a little bit too much weight on the right ankle. So I think it just took the force a bit too much. I think that's what happened because I didn't land short. Technically, there was nothing wrong with the vault. It's just one of those things.
You still managed to carry on competing as well, right?
Yeah, carried on. So I did the parallel bars. So I did the parallel bars. It was a good routine, but it wasn't my best. I think I was so focused on the dismount the whole routine. I was just like, oh my god, I've got to do a dismount. Oh no, I'm getting closer to the dismount. I'm like, oh no, it's coming up. And I did actually stick the dismount, probably because I was so focused on the dismount. I did a very good dismount. But then again, that was really sore. And then I walked it off, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, if that was sore, high bar is going to be really sore. And we wanted to get a team medal, so I was like, you know what? I'll do the high bar, try and help the team out and get another team score. So then did the high bar, did a really good routine, Coleman, Steinemann, stoop stolder, dismount, again, stuck the dismount, and presented, and I just fell on the floor, just completely fell on the floor. Just went through my ankle. I think, like you said, you've seen the video, the fall looks quite dramatic, but at the time it was really sore.
It's interesting, isn't it, mate? I imagine if that was an individual competition, you probably would have stopped after vault, potentially. Do you feel like that?
Yeah.
But because it was a team, you carry on. I think that's a dynamic that people maybe don't see. Like, you do really put yourself on the line for the team sometimes, and you wouldn't think that given that it's an individual sport. But I think those team competitions, that environment, and once you've built up a prep together, you kind of really do want to put that score out there for the team in a different way to competing for yourself, right? Yeah,
it's totally true. When you compete for a team, it's just a different ball game. Like you said, I did that high bar routine for my team, not myself. It had nothing to do with me. And I'm grateful that I did it. And then I tried to do the floor after for the team. And I warmed up, actually, did a little couple bounces and stuff. But it was just, I had to think about the bigger picture in the end of the day. If that was the Commonwealth Games, then I would have full send it on the floor and I would have done it. I had to pull out, and I've made the right choice. I think actually pulling out the floor, was really good, because before I think I would have just made myself do that.
Okay.
And I think that just shows I respect myself, I can actually, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to push myself. And I'm going to think about the bigger picture, So I think, I'm very
I guess
proud.
the bigger picture for Team Wales and you guys, right, is Commonwealth Games in 2 years' time. Now that's been confirmed in Glasgow.
Yeah, for sure. Commonwealth Games, again, the biggest competition for Team Wales. And, can't wait. And, we've only ever had one medal from Dave Eaton on the high bar.
Was that 2006?
I believe
Of
so,
2002,
yeah.
2006?
2002, 2006. I'm not
Yeah.
totally sure if I'm
It's
honest.
a great high bar workout. I
Oh, yeah,
remember.
incredible.
Yeah.
And silver medal on the high bar. So, that's our only medal. So, yeah, you know.
That's exciting, mate. I
Yeah.
think there's quite a few of you maybe in that group of athletes. I'd say Hamish the same, where you've got the opportunity to go to a Commonwealth Games in 2 years' time. It's going to be in Scotland, right? So it's almost a home nation. The BBC put a lot of money into covering the Commonwealth Games. It's a great opportunity to get your face out there and do well, but also, you know, hopefully pick up some medals. What was the standard like at the Northern Euros, mate? Has the standard, because you've competed in that competition a few times now, do you feel like the standards is increasing? It looks like the Irish team are getting better, right? So they're starting to do better.
Yeah.
Typically in the past, the Scandinavian countries would do very, very well, but it seems like the home nations are starting to kind of do very well in that competition.
Yeah, I do agree. The level of gymnastics is definitely increasing in the Northern Europeans and stuff. So I was very impressed. And seeing a 5-6 vault, we've never seen that in a Northern Euro. So that's incredible. And I'm sorry to hear about Liam and his little injury.
Yeah.
Not little injury, big injury. But the level of gymnastics is really good, and it's such a good competition. And Team Ireland did really well out there. I was really impressed. It's just great comp.
They have a good setup, don't they, out there in Ireland? Obviously, with Reece winning his gold medal, you imagine that will translate into them maybe getting more funding and more support, and potentially they could start to do well on the international scene in the years to come. Joe, I want to ask you to start off with, I think this is a really interesting time post-Olympic Games, and it's an interesting time for anybody, whether you've been at the Games, whether you missed out on the Games, whether the Games wasn't really in your ballpark, whether you're planning to do the next 4 years. Maybe you're a young athlete and you're like, okay, in 4 years' time, I could be there, I could be fighting for a spot. What's this time like been for you right now? Like, where's your headspace? What are your plans moving forward? What was it like watching the Games? You obviously had Joe from your gym at Birmingham that went there to compete. It's always a weird time, isn't it, at the end of a 4-year cycle? The rules are changing. Everyone's in limbo a little bit. What's this time been like for you, mate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me personally, this year I said I wasn't going to try for Olympics. I didn't want to put that stress under myself, and I knew that I wasn't really in the runnings. It was a bit of a long shot, and I didn't really want to stress myself out and expect myself to be making these teams. I think I was like took it to myself and was like, you know what, I've got time, I'm young, I'm fit, I'm healthy. This isn't my time now, but in 4 years might be my time then. So that's what I did. Watching the Games, because I said to myself I wasn't trialing for this Olympics, it was easier to watch, but still, when your dreams and aspirations are to be there, it's still tough to watch, no matter if you said you're not going to do this one. So it was tough, did enjoy it, and the level of gymnastics is just crazy. And the team did absolutely amazing, really proud of them. And watching Joe at the all-around final, I thought he was going to get a medal, honestly. I put some money on the boy as well, so Joe, if you're listening, I placed a bit of money on you. I would have got a good return. So I was backing my boy. It was a great watch, and then the boys did really well on the floor and stuff, and Jake, Luke, they did really well, and then Harry and Jake on the vault. Incredible.
Yeah, what was it like? Has Joe been back in the gym since the Games? I know I actually spoke to him last week, and he said he's taking a little bit of time off training.
It's a good question. Has Joe been back in the gym? He has, just for content, no training. I'm sorry, Joe. It's just kind of exposed you there. But he's doing well. I think he's focusing on other things and stuff, and he's enjoying himself, having some time off, well-deserved time off. So, fully respect that, and
it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a lot of you guys now that have kind of, I know you're newer to Birmingham, but that setup, there's a real big group of senior guys that kind of all seem to be going in different paths. What's that like in terms of a training environment? Because I imagine everybody has very individual programs. The likes of yourself might be going out to Germany and France to compete in competitions. You might have Dom that's going over to compete in Ireland or train in Ireland. You might have Josh I think is Josh still at university? Is he at university?
Yeah, he's just started again in uni.
Okay.
So, the boys, everyone's got their different lifestyles and stuff. It's not like, when you're juniors, you come in at this time, you finish school, you come in, you train, and then you go home at the same time. Because we're all seniors now, and, some people are at uni, some people got jobs, and different timetables in terms of competitions. So, yeah, everyone's got different programs, and it can make things a bit more tricky in the gym.
Okay.
Because yesterday, for instance, I had just one routine on each, and the other boys were just doing new skills and playing around and stuff. But it just when you're all on routines, then you can all push each other on, and that environment. But when you're the only person doing routines and then everyone else is doing skills, it's just like. You're just looking over. Oh, I want to kind of be doing that, But yeah, it's good. Like the environment's good. But yeah, you just gotta learn to deal with doing routines when no one else is doing routines. And like you said, I'm doing the league comps at the moment, the Bundesliga, the top 12. So I literally do routines all year round.
Yeah.
So the routines aren't really that taxing for myself. So I can kind of do it anytime, anywhere, and I'm comfortable doing it. So it doesn't really bother me too much.
What positive impact has that had on your gymnastics, Joe, and your ability to compete, going out and getting used to just competing every winter, springtime, whether you're in Germany or France, and you've got to hit every weekend, and there's pressure, right? Like for people that don't know, have never been to watch one of those competitions or don't understand the league, just talk a little bit about the pressure to go out there and hit every weekend, because for these guys, this is their hometown, their home club. They've got local businessmen putting money in that's paying your wages to go out there and compete. It's a big deal, right? Like you feel that pressure, don't you? How influential is that then when you go to put your hand up at a British Championships or an English Championships?
Oh, it's massive. Like doing these league comps has actually changed the game for me. I think we train to compete in the end of the day, and if you can't compete, then it's a big flaw within your gymnastics career. So being able to put your hand up and deliver a routine from start to finish is just really important. And doing these league comps, doing so many more comps than you would in domestic competitions, it's really important. And these comps mean so much to the guys. Competing out in the German league, the French league, it means everything to them. So it's pressurized environments, and they're not easy to compete.
No.
It's not like a warm-up compete like you would in a domestic competition. For the Bundesliga, once you've done the hour warm-up, you then don't touch the apparatus again. So the time you do a rings routine or a pommel routine, you don't touch the pommel for 20, 30 minutes. So you're cold, you're like, can I even circle? I haven't done a one touch. Can I even do a circle? So it teaches you to compete in under pressurized environments and stuff. And because it's a 1v1, how the system works is a gymnast goes up, they compete, and then you react to that gymnast. So firstly, you don't even know when you're going up. You don't. So you're sat around, you just be twiddling your thumbs, and then the coach is like, Joe, you're up. You're like, oh. Okay, right, so now it's my turn. You go up and then you do your routine and everyone is watching you.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, but then, like I said, we train to compete in the end of the day, and if you can't compete, then yeah, it's gonna be tough.
How have you noticed, you obviously talked there, Joe, about how it's been a massive benefit to your gymnastics. Then when you're in an environment in the UK around the majority of gymnasts that don't have that experience of competing all of the time, maybe they're doing 4 comps a year, what are you noticing are the differences in the way they're approaching competitions as opposed to maybe yourself or someone in the past like James Hall, Dom Cunningham, Joe Fraser, Courtney Tulloch, who are going out competing every winter?
Yeah.
What are those differences you're noticing in their approach and their mindset when it comes to competition?
That's a good question. I think it's the warm-up. You can see, the people that are a bit more stressed, a bit more, anxious about their routines, they'll be doing routines in the back gym. They'll be doing more goes, more reps, whereas I'm very relaxed in the warm-up, because I know that I can do my routines without a warm-up, and as long as I'm actually warm and I'm ready to go and the muscles are good, then it doesn't matter about the warm-up. But I guess the people that are less experienced under competition environments, they would tend to do more and, stress, I need to do more. I need to do more routines. I need to do this. Oh, that's not gone right. Like, I do not watch my warm-up. My warm-ups are normally absolutely, can I swear?
Yeah, you
shit.
Can.
They're normally shit. But honestly, it doesn't matter. I think Joe Fraser taught me this, and he said, never win the warm-up. Never win the warm-up. And from now on, don't win the warm-up. It doesn't matter. You can do anything in the warm-up. You can look amazing. But in the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right, mate. I can remember once being at a World Championships with Dan Keatings, and he never wanted to do a good podium session. So we got round to the last piece, and he fell on his dismount on purpose.
Yeah.
I was like, Dan, why'd you do that? He was like, oh no, if I go clean today, I won't go clean in the comp.
Yeah. It's like when you stick a dismount in training, not in training, in podium, or like
in
a
the
one
warm-up,
touch.
like the 3-minute
yeah,
warm-up.
you got to stick it,
no.
and then take a step. You purposely take the step so you don't stick it.
That's really interesting, Joe. So you can feel that energy of somebody that is very confident in their own gymnastics, and then someone that maybe is feeling the pressure and is like, okay, I need to do more. Yeah. Whereas, yeah, that makes so much sense, mate. And I would imagine that maybe earlier on in my career you would see that like frantic, yes, like in a warm-up gym, and then probably towards the end just very relaxed, like if something didn't go right, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Miss a release and well, that's okay. I'm on the bar, I know what I need to do, yeah. So that's really interesting, I think, for people listening, mate, because there are more and more lads from the UK wanting to go out and compete in those league matches. So hearing from someone that has some experience in doing that, I think is really, really valuable. What would be your piece of advice for someone? I asked Edgar this, and you told me before we went live that you're good friends with Edgar and you actually train with his team, compete for his team. What would be your advice as a British gymnast that's gone out there for anybody that maybe is going out there this season? Because I know there are some young lads from GB that are going to be doing their first league season for Germany or teams in France. What would be your advice for them going out there and experiencing that for the first time? Because it's quite a shock the first time.
It is,
I remember from my own experience, I was like, I couldn't speak the language, like German showers. I was like, what's going on? This is so strange. It was just so alien compared to normal gymnastics. It was very much like a football environment, but in gymnastics. What would be your advice for anybody going out there?
Again, that's a very good question. Yeah, like you said, the language barrier is an issue.
Because you might not know they're talking in German or French, and then they go, "Oh, Sam, you're going," and you're like, "What? I'm going. I need to do. I need to visualize my routine. I need to go through my."
And that's gone out the window.
Yeah, you
got
can't
no
do
time
that.
for that. Yeah, and like when you have like the team talks at the beginning, obviously it's all in German or French, and I'm like, oh well, I have no idea what is going on.
But let's do it.
Yeah, but the energy's good, so I'm good. Advice. That's a good question. I would say, depending on the level, let's say if it's like a League 2 comp, don't go all out. You don't need to do your big routines. I think it's important to go from start to finish a clean, solid routine. That's what matters. They don't expect to see like massive routines, because you're not doing a one touch. Sometimes the apparatus is not the best. So just getting a clean, solid, consistent routine. And that's what matters.
That's a great piece of advice, mate, because that's probably the advice that I would give as well. I think a lot of guys go out there and they go, why, they're paying me money. I've got to do my full routine that I just maybe did at this major championships here or at the British Championships, when actually, like, they want you to go through. It's more important that you go through and maybe lose by 1 point to the other team's best gymnast rather than having 2 falls losing by 4 or 5 points. For them, it's about hitting. So I think my advice would be maybe reduce the difficulty of your routines in those first couple of competitions so that you can get used to the different format of, because it's just so different, isn't it? Like not knowing when you're going up, the lack of warm-ups, all of that is so strange. Having like a big rowdy crowd, like it all of it is like, whoa, what's going on? Even the bits from walking on and holding like a kid's hand, you're like, what's going on? This is so strange.
And then big drums, horns. And I would also say maybe 2 routines. So you have your more difficult routine and you have your easier routine. So then depending on who you're responding to, you can change your routine. That's what I do. So they always make me react to someone. So their gymnast will go up first. And depending on how they do, I will then change the routine depending on if they smash the routine, they do a really good routine and they put me against the foreigner, then I would go, okay, I'm going to have to go big here. I'm going to do my big routine. Because if I do my base routine, I'm just going to lose. So, yeah, I would say have 2 routines in the bank. If they mess up, brilliant. go and do your clean routine, smoke them, and then your job's done.
And you get that top scorer T-shirt at the end.
Exactly that.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's really, really interesting, mate, that we've got someone that is going to compete this season. And you can follow the leagues online, can't you? And it's quite interesting. Is there a way that you can watch those leagues online now?
Typically, yeah. I think there is a live stream that they normally do on the league comps and stuff, depending if it's League 3, League 2, League 1. League 1, definitely. League 2, I think they've got some live streams and stuff.
One day, it'd be great if we had a British team that could go and compete in the German league or whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? Like,
Or just have the league here. We need a sort of league here.
Yeah, or get a league here. They did try it, once. They did. About 15 years ago, they had about 4 teams that competed in the league for one season, and it finished. Nobody got paid. It was just like voluntary. But they did try a league, which is really interesting. Joe, let's go back a little bit to the start, mate.
Yep.
When you got into gymnastics and you were a junior, was your experience the experience that a lot of young gymnasts have that are quite successful and talented of being in a real pressure cooker? Or for you, was it very different? Was it more an enjoyable experience as you came up and then got more intense as you started to make it into the GB team and then potentially turn senior?
For me, I did gymnastics purely for fun. I started when I was 5 years old. I'm now 20. So that's 20 years of my life doing gymnastics. And if I wasn't enjoying myself, I wouldn't be sat here, I wouldn't still be doing gymnastics. So, yeah, the forefront was enjoyment. Every day, looking forward to doing gymnastics. Obviously, there is tough days and there's, days that you don't want to go in and stuff. But majority of the time, I love gymnastics and I really enjoyed it.
And what was the things that you loved about it, mate? Was it the feeling of doing the gymnastics itself? Was it certain apparatus? Was it the fact that it was the thing that you found that you were good at and you loved? Was it actually learning new skills and picking up new skills? What was it that you think that straight away got you hooked?
Oh, I think really all of it, learning new skills, coming in and, you get a new skill and then you get that buzz, that feeling, in your chest. Or, you hit a good conditioning set and you're starting to feel stronger, seeing improvement every day, every week. I think that's, for me, that's probably the sole reason, seeing improvement every day was really fun. And also, you're going in the gym and you're just with your mates doing gymnastics. Like, for me, that's just, I'm 25 now and I don't see myself as an adult. Because I go in the gym and I do gymnastics. I'm still a kid. I got a house, I got a mortgage, but I still see myself as a kid.
It's a great attitude, mate. It's a great lens to see it through because, I think it does get very intense for a lot of people quite quick. Can you remember a time though, Joe, where you started to feel like, right now I'm steering down this elite path? This is what I want to take it seriously in that I want a career out of this. And when kind of was that?
I think that was when I first got onto the GB squad. Okay. I think when I was maybe 10, 11 years old. So I was very young.
Quite early
really early on. So up until then, I had no idea, about the GB system or anything like that. And then, as soon as I got selected to just be on the GB squad, then I realised, okay, I am actually quite good, and I can make a career out of this. But then I didn't... I still enjoyed gymnastics. I still made sure that the forefront was enjoying gymnastics, and that was the main thing.
Were you always one of the top gymnasts in your age group, Joe? So growing up, going through the ages.
Yeah. Me, Josh, and Lucas Jones. So I was always up there. All competitions, domestically, internationally as well. I did quite well as a junior. Didn't go to any junior Euros, but won the all-round at Austria Future Cup, won the all-round in Cottbus, Germany.
Wow.
Won the all-round in Italian Autumn Cup. So, I did really well. But, just having fun. If you're not having fun, then, what are you doing?
Do you think that approach to gymnastics and also the way that you experienced it was a product of the environment that you were in, the club setup? Because you had quite a successful club down where you are, right? And I've had Jay Thompson on and we've had a conversation. We talked about Jay's career, and Jay was somewhat down south,
southwest,
kind of cut off from everybody else a little bit. So what was that environment like in your club growing up?
It was really good. You know what? It was really good. So I was down at Falcons. Mike Beagley was our coach, and he's so nice. He's like a father figure. Absolutely love the guy so much. I actually went and saw him a couple of weeks back for the 20th anniversary of Falcons. So it's amazing, that big achievement. And yeah, it's just the family down there. Like you said, it's so secluded down there. It's like a different world. We're in our own little bubble. Go to the gym. I had a good group of boys there. Me, Adam, Byron, Ryan. We used to just go there, train, and then just go home, play the PlayStation, wake up again, you do it again, and then somehow, make a career out of it, get paid by, luckily enough to get paid by British Gymnastics and stuff, get on the APA. So yeah, it was really good.
And what was that period of time when you first started to get funding, Joe? Because you've spoke about, you've kind of mentioned that you mentioned about putting a bet on with Joe, and I know that you have your own business outside of gymnastics.
That's correct.
How difficult is it when you're transitioning from junior to senior, and you've got friends maybe outside of the sport that are going out, they're getting jobs, maybe going to university, and you're still trying to fund an elite sportsman's lifestyle, which isn't cheap, right? How difficult is that, and how do you do that other than essentially having the support and the funding from British Gymnastics? Were you able, as a young athlete, to find other support and backing?
So yeah, that's a good question. So when I was 17, my family were based in Bristol, and like you said, I was training down in the southwest. So it's an 80-mile round trip. So I was paying rent in a little flat, and the APA doesn't even cover the rent cost, let alone electric bills, food, petrol. So so I was like trying to figure out, I can't get a full-time job. I can't be training 6 hours a day and then expect to work in the evenings. Like, it's just not really sustainable. So I try to think of methods of like income and stuff. So at the time I didn't really think of a business, but I just thought, just get some money together. When I was a kid, I used to love Lego. So I had a load of Lego in my bedroom as a kid. So I went back to Bristol and I just sold everything that I had. I just sold just to make some money to pay for rent. I really wanted to do gymnastics, but again, I had to pay the bills. Gotta pay for food and petrol and stuff. So sold all my stock. Well, not stock back then. It was called just, my toys.
Your stuff.
Yeah, stuff. Not stock, stuff.
My childhood memories.
Yeah. So they were all gone. And then, so when I made a lot of money. And then I saw, like, on Facebook Marketplace, people selling things. And I was like, oh, they're selling it for a cheaper price than I was selling it for. Maybe I can then buy from them and then sell it on. So then I was doing like Facebook. I was buying then Lego from Facebook, picking up Lego and then selling it on. And then it was getting really big. And then I started selling things that I didn't even have stock of. So then it just got like too out of hand. And then before I knew it, I had like a full-time business, like buying and selling, driving across the country, picking up Lego. And then luckily I had a company contact me. They saw that I was selling Lego toys and games on eBay. And there wasn't many people doing it at the time, back in 2017. And they contacted me saying that they're getting into the Lego department, like bulk Lego. Do I want to buy directly from them? And at the time, I remember I sat with my mum and I was like, Mum, I just got this email from this company. Do you think this is a scam? And we were like, I have no idea. It looks legit. I'm not going to say the company's name because they're my supplier and I'm going to keep that to myself. And we were like, right, let's just do it. Let's buy some, bulk Lego. And the minimum order was 50 kilograms of Lego. And like 50 kilograms of Lego, at the time for me was like a lot.
How much Lego is that?
It's a lot. Like, it is a lot. More than you would ever have as a kid. You would never have 50 kilos as a kid.
Yeah.
So so then I bought it. It arrived, and then the business grew every single year. I invested back into the business, and then just learning new things, learning new tricks. And then every year building to the point of last tax year, I had net sales of 75,000. So it went from me selling little toys and games from my bedroom to last year of net sales of 75,000 as a part-time little hustle, as well as doing gymnastics full-time.
That is incredible, mate. And how much has that been a key part of you being able to carry on doing gymnastics, into your mid-20s, and potentially carrying on again into your 30s? What a role is that playing? Because you will have experienced now guys that are your age, from your generation, that have finished because this just, like you say, isn't financially sustainable anymore.
Yeah, like, gymnastics, we're not doing it for the money. And to stay in the sport, you need to find some sort of income. If you're lucky enough to get income because you're like the top 1% of the guys, getting lots of money from the sport, then that's really good. But if you're not, then you need to find an income. And I luckily found a passive income that can allow me to train and make money whilst I'm training and stuff. So it's massively important. I'm very lucky. It kind of just didn't plan this. I didn't wake up one day, right, I'm going to make a business. I'm going to do this. No, I kind of fell on my feet. I worked hard, of course, and I had, my mum really helps me out and stuff, and she really helps me out with the business. Just employed my brother, so he's working for me now as well. Yeah. So it's good. Yeah.
That's amazing, mate. And on the face of it, right, it sounds great. Like, oh, yeah, you buy a bit of Lego, you sell it. But I'm sure the back end is incredibly difficult, stressful at times, and managing your training. But it's amazing for people to hear that you were able to do that, because I think sometimes you hear these things online, especially on like TikTok and Instagram, and you're like, oh, these people legit. Like, did they really do it? Yeah. So, and I think quite often the people that are doing it, they're not talking about it because it is actually really hard. It's tough to keep it going.
Yeah, and it's really tough. Like I said, it sounds all good and well. Buy a bit of Lego, buy some toys and games and stuff, and make money. But if you sell an item, it goes missing, damaged packaging. I'm the owner of the business, so I have to. It's always on my head, it's always on my mind, and I can never really switch off. So when I finished gymnastics, I then got a load of message or requests, or I got stock checks and buy more stock, or I've sold an item that's damaged, or it's just so many little things that you probably wouldn't even think about. So it's like it is a lot on my plate, but I'm grateful, and I'm
is it a case of now you know what you know about how difficult it is to do? Would you still go and do it?
That's a very good question.
Because you benefit almost from that naivety, right, of not understanding how challenging and difficult this is going to be. It's a bit like when people ask you, if you have a kid, will you let them do gymnastics? And you kind of hesitate for a minute. You're like, I'm not sure, because I know the path they're going to have to walk, right? But do you have that a little bit at times where you're like, God, this is so hard. If I'd have known this at the beginning, maybe I wouldn't have actually started?
That's a good question. I would say no, definitely. I would have definitely done it. I wouldn't have gone back, because without it, I wouldn't be where I am now. Did I think it would be this hard? No, because I didn't think it would be this big. Because when I first started, I had no intentions of growing this business to the size it is now. I'm not saying it's massive or anything, but it's a side hustle. It's pretty big. And obviously I've got my brother working for me now, and my mum is helping me out as well. So it's it does take a lot of time and stuff, but because I've set up the business, it kind of runs by itself and stuff, and I don't put in as many hours as I would if I was doing like a working at McDonald's or something, getting the money from there. So the time for the money is definitely better with this business for sure. But yeah, it's not easy though.
Because you've had to do that, Joe, and you've had to go out, build a side hustle to fund your gymnastics in order, to pay the rent when you... Listen, were you living by yourself when you...
Living by myself.
17?
17.
Oh, that says a lot about your character, mate. Because you've had to do that, do you then appreciate any money you do get from gymnastics even more? Any of that funding? I think a lot of young athletes take for granted the opportunity that they have when they're a funded athlete, the access to physios, doctors, psychologists, nutritionists, the fact that you can get free tape at training camps, stuff like that, free chalk. I think that's taken for granted sometimes, isn't it? Do you appreciate that even more because you've had to work so hard to just get yourself into a position where you can be on the start line and keep competing?
Yeah, massively. When I got taken off squad, 2022, at the end of 2022. And I had like a year period where I wasn't really getting much support from Welsh Gymnastics, and I had nothing from BG. And that year, I was just like, I had like no physio. Like you said, like even the little things like tape, you know, those rolls of tape, they cost quite a bit, you know, and you get through them a lot, you know. So yeah, it is tricky, and you take it for granted, you know, when you have it at the time and stuff, and like, you know, phoning up your physio, like, oh, can I see you? Yeah, just come in. You know, you take that for granted. So yeah, I do really appreciate you know, what I had back then, and I've got a better system now with Welsh Gymnastics, and we've got some, you know, I got a physio now that I can see, and I'm getting a little bit of funding, so I really do appreciate it. And having any sort of income is just, yeah, it massively helps.
That's great, mate. Tell me a little bit then about 2021, because you had a great year there in 2021, mate.
Yeah.
You did very well at the British Championships. You then went to the World Championships in Japan, which was that almost extra World Championships because the Olympics got pushed back.
Yeah.
So just tell me about your experience of that year, Joe. Obviously, you break onto the senior team, and you've been competing as a senior then for a few years, but you're on the senior team at major championships. Tell me about that year and what that experience was like for you.
So yeah, that year was a very successful year for myself. So I went to a couple World Cups, made World Cup final, came fourth in the final on the parallel bars, and then went to the British Championships, came second all around, and then picked up, you know, 3 or 4 apparatus medals as well as the all-around medal. Had a really good all-around score, I think maybe 82.
Wow.
So, you know, put out some really good routines. And it was funny because it was the back of COVID, and that British was the only really qualification event for the Worlds, because there wasn't really any other competitions because of COVID. And so going to that British Championships, I was like, right, if I get in the podium on the all-around and then pick up some medals, like, they can't not take me. They have to, you know. If I'm, you know, hitting the medals and getting second all-around, like, they have to take me. So I went there, did my job, and then, you know, got the phone call from Paul, you know, gonna be selected for my first senior major, you know. So, like, yeah, it's incredible. But then the Worlds was probably the best and worst experience of my entire life.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, going to that comp, I was the fittest I've ever been, fit, healthy, looking forward to it. And from the beginning of the week, the beginning of the World's competition was just a shambles. So we get to the airport, and this was back when, you know, during COVID and stuff, to travel you needed PCR tests. So we all get there, you know, with our bags, just about, you know, go through, check our bags in. And they're like, oh, that's the wrong PCR. Every single one of us had the wrong PCR test. So we're like, at the airport, like, what do we do now? They wouldn't let us even check our bags in. So luckily there was a PCR test you can do on site, but the results can take, you know, like 1 to 2 hours. And our flight was leaving in 1 to 2 hours. So we all rush off, you know, we ditch our bags, we're rushing off to get this test. We then, you know, get the test, and we then just have to sit in the lobby and just wait until we get the ping on your email saying that, you know, your test is good, you know. So as soon as you get that email, it's a free-for-all, and you're running through the airport. So I'm sat there, my first ever major, and I'm seeing the delegation just running off through security, and I'm there, like, just sat there like, oh, okay, it's just a free-for-all at this point, you know, and then just running off. And I was one of the last people to get the email. And I'm like, oh my, I'm stressing. I'm like, what if they get on the fly and I'm still sat and waiting for my PCR test? And they're gone off. And I'm like, oh my God. So I think it was like me and Josh Nathan still left. And then luckily, I think ours came in at the same time. And then we're rushing through, stressing, got big, you know, gym bags, you know, we got so much stuff. It's not easy. So we're rushing through the airport. And we get on the fly, and it was all good. So that was not a great start. And then we arrive in Japan, incredible country. It's just like a different world out there, isn't it? Like, the language barrier is just crazy. Like, we can't speak a word of Japanese. They can't speak a word of English. So it's just like hand signals, bowing. I absolutely love it. It's so funny. So we get there, you know, a long travel day, you know, 24 hours travel, you know, not a lot of food. We get to the hotel. The hotel is horrendous, like terrible. I'm talking, like no bigger than this room, and I got to share with one other gymnast, like tiny little beds. I'm like, okay, here's what it is. We get there, and we go to sleep, and I haven't eaten anything all day, starving. We wake up in the morning, and we've got to do another test. We've got to do a test every single day out at the Worlds. And so I was like, all right, I'll do the test. But I was like, so hungry. So I saw the little lunchbox we have. So I scoffed a banana, so hungry. And then I did the test. Sharing a room with Hayden Skinner at the time. And I do the test, and I was like, I just see 2 lines on this test. And that means you have COVID. So I'm like, Hayden, bro, this ain't good, is it? And he goes, oh shit, bro, you got COVID? And I was like, oh. So I phoned up Karen. I'm like, Karen, I think I got COVID. I got 2 lines on my test. And she was like, stay there, don't move. I'm like, oh, I can't really go anywhere, don't worry. No, I'm not. So I'm in my room stressing. And then Hayden's stressing because he's staying with me in the same room. So she's like, right, you two are going to have to isolate in different rooms, and you're going to have to send off like official PCR tests to get like an official like result, and then we have to wait. So it takes 24 hours to get the result. I'm at my first major, and the first day, me and Hayden are stuck in separate rooms, box rooms, not nice rooms with a nice view. I'm talking box rooms, a terrible view, terrible bathroom, literally no food. Waiting around. The stress of like thinking, oh my God, do I have COVID? The other stress of, oh my God, the team has gone off training, in the training halls and stuff, having a good time. And then, so the stress of that, and then thinking, oh my God, I gotta compete in a couple of days, and I'm like stuck in a room. And so I'm waiting around, so boring. And then eventually we got the test results back, and it came out negative. And turns out it's because I ate the banana before the test. And apparently you're not supposed to eat before the test.
Right, okay.
Like,
I wouldn't know that.
That's what I said. And then my coach was like, oh, did you not read the rules? And I was like, who reads the rules before doing a test? Like, you just do the test. Like, so the banana gave me COVID. But yeah, so that was okay. So then the next day, went to training, all fine. And then, training was going well. Then the next day was podium training, so really excited, get to see the arena, incredible arena, first major, so really looking forward to it. And I was doing 4 events at the time, because there was, I think, maybe 2 or 3 max per apparatus.
Okay.
I couldn't do floor and vault, so I was doing the other events. So first piece was P-bars, and I do one of my best P-bar routines in podium training, stuck the dismount, and I look at my hand, and my hand has got the biggest split I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, it's not a blister where it's, you got, a blister, your flap of skin's come off. I'm talking, like, my palm is now open. And I, like, show Lee, I'm like, who my coach is. And I was like, Lee, what do we do? He goes, well, you need to, like, get on the apparatus. It's the only time you can get on the apparatus. So then I carry on, and I do the high bar, the pommel, and the rings, and each go just gets bigger and bigger. The split is massive at this point. I'm in agony. The blood everywhere. I've just got a massive split in my hand. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is not a good time. And then the doc was like, right, this is after podium. Come to my room and I'll stitch your hand back together. So this is straight after podium. I'm like, okay, stitch my hand back together. He doesn't mean actually a needle, string, actually stitching my hand back together. Like, there's no way. They're not going to expect me to compete with a hand with string on it. Like, there's no way. I'm thinking like the paper stitches you get. Maybe, paper stitches, let it heal and see what happens. So I get to the room, I'm on the bed, and then he starts getting out these needles and string, and I'm like, okay, so it is. We are doing it. We are stitching my hand back together. And oh my God, it was the worst pain of my entire life. Like, It's horrible. Like, actually stitching your palm back together.
It seems crazy that was the solution.
I think at this point...
Could they not glue it?
We tried it. It just
wouldn't?
Yeah, super glue.
Did it, was the crack on, the crease and where your palm is, Joe? Or?
It was, the middle of...
Right, okay.
The middle here, and it was just the whole of it. And it wasn't just, the top layer, sand it down, use a scalpel. No, it was so deep. Wow. It was the deepest split I've ever seen in my entire life. And so they stitch it back together, and then we've got like 2 days before competition. And then like when I'm training, I'm like, how am I gonna do? Like I've got 5 underbar elements in my P-bar routine. How are they gonna expect me to do any? I got undersummy 1, I got undersummy half, I got giant Suarez, straddle fronts. How am I gonna do any of that with stitches in the palm of my hand? But I was like, you know what? I was still hopeful, and I was thinking, you know what? Maybe I can do it. You know, I didn't, you know. I try to be positive and, you know, think like, you know, I still can do it. It's still possible, you know. So that, you know, training was, you know, little to none. Couldn't really do a lot. And then, so then it was comp day. So, you know, I was like, you know what, comp day, let's give it everything, you know, is what it is. Let's just, you know, see what happens. And so we get to the comp. I think we were like one of the earlier sessions of the day. So, you know, we do the hour warm up, everything's going well, you know, did what I can, you know, did the 4 apparatuses, warmed up, and so everything's going well, you know, and then just about to march in, got our leotards on, bags on, ready to march in, and then this guy walks in to the back gym, and he looks like something from Breaking Bad. He's got like this massive like white suit on, and he comes in with a clipboard, like body suit, and he's like, right, someone in the division before us had COVID, and you're gonna have to wait here. And we're like, okay, how long? And he was like, 10 minutes. So, all right, 10 minutes is okay, you know. 10 minutes is fine. So we're like sat there, you know, the nerves are going, you know, you're nervous, you're apprehensive, you know, first major, you know, I'm excited, you know, got this, you know, mad, you know, rush through my body. But, you know, 10 minutes is fine. You know, sit there. You know, you're not going to warm up again in 10 minutes. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to sit there, you know, try and keep warm. 10 minutes pass. He comes back in. It's going to be another 10 minutes. So, right, that's quite annoying. But, all right, we'll wait another 10 minutes. Wait another 10 minutes. Then we sit around. Right, what do we do? Nothing. He comes back in. It's going to be another 10 minutes. So, all right, this is actually taking the mick now. And then he comes back in. So now we're waiting half an hour at this point. Okay, still just sat there doing nothing. Everyone's looking around like, what do we do? Like, all the gymnasts are like, what do we do? And he comes back in. Okay, it's going to be an hour. Okay, so now we have an hour wait until we march out. So this is going to be an hour and a half later than what we expected. So, like, my first major, I mean, to wait around for another hour and a half with stitches in my palm of my hand. Like, what? Like, what? It's fine. Like, what do I do? So I was like, you know what? It's fine. Warm up again. And, you know, we just start again. So everyone just did, like, the hour warm up again. Like, yeah, it is what it is. So then, okay, we march out. Finally march out. Like, thank God. And we get out, and I'm first on P-bars. And I realized why it took an hour and a half for them, you know, in the back gym, in the arena. It's because they stripped the equipment completely clean. So there was not an ounce of chalk on any equipment. And I was first up on P-bars. And I was like, well, this is, yeah.
Sounds like a nightmare.
A nightmare. So literally nothing went right. So imagine going to your first major, you got stitches in your hands, and then you had to wait around for an hour and a half, and then go to the first up. It wasn't like, you know, with, you know, start high bar, and then the time we get to P bars, you know, people being on it. No, I'm first up on P bars, first event. So, yeah, you can kind of guess what's going to happen at this point. Absolute shambles. It was so slippy. It was just so dangerous. Yeah, it was just lethal. I think I fell like 3 times.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And then went to high bar again. You know, I might as well just brought my gloves and loops at this point. It was like, the thing is, when you chalk the bar, you're like, oh, yeah, but you can just chalk it. But then there's a difference between chalking the bar and actually swinging and using on it.
Yeah,
like, just chalking it doesn't actually grind it in. So then, you know, by chalking it up, the first I did, like, at the time I was doing, I did squat half, Coleman, straight catch F, Steinemann, and then I still had like 4 elements left, and it's just a shiny bar. And then to the dismount, I'm like, I'm just actually doing the wind up on a shiny bar. So I had to just dunk my feet down, because if I did a normal action, I'm just going to slip off at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I had to dunk my feet down and do a tuck dismount to stay on. And then my teammate had to do the same. And then And then I had pummel and rings left, and pummel doesn't really matter. And then rings, by the time we got to rings, it was completely fine.
Yeah.
So that was my experience of my first major.
That is called earning your stripes, mate. That is. I mean, after that, as a reference point, nothing's ever going to be as crazy as that experience, right?
That's exactly why I say this is my best and worst experience. Because now I can comfortably say I will never have a harder competition than that. I will never compete in worse in situation, environment, shape, like. I will never have a harder environment. So now whenever I go to competitions, I am fully comfortable. I will not warm up. I don't have to warm up. I don't need a warm up. As long as my body is warm, I am happy to go.
Yeah.
Because of that.
That's an amazing thing to come out of that experience, mate. And you can take it two ways, right? Some people would think, okay, poor me, why me?
Yeah.
Or you go, okay, what can I use from this? And I think, it's interesting. You can never line up in front of the judges and say, hey, just to let you know, I've been ill this week. I didn't sleep on Wednesday. I hurt my ankle on Monday. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters are the scores. So people will have just seen your score on P-bars, but they have none of that context. No. That's why I think it's important that you have to just do your thing and just not focus on other people's opinions, because no one's ever going to know your story, and everybody's got one, right? Yeah. So it's an amazing experience to have had as a young athlete, mate. I wish it had gone better for you. That first experience.
Me too, but
my first experience in Japan was similar. You know,
really.
My first experience competing at World Championships in Japan was very similar. It was just and it's interesting that you say that. I wouldn't say it was the worst and best, but I would certainly say it's one of the experiences in my life where I learnt the most, especially about people as well. Yeah. But what an amazing country, and I'm sure that experience, you use the lessons today, even to this day, I'm sure you do, and share that with other athletes as well. Yeah. Tell me then a little bit about the Commonwealth Games in 2022 then, mate.
So then again, it's very similar to to the Worlds. The best and worst experience, I wouldn't say worst experience, best experience and hardest to deal with experience of my life. So actually after Worlds, I went to the Northern Europeans. So this was the year before Commonwealth Games. Okay. And I went to that Northern Europeans a couple weeks after the Worlds. And from what I learned from Worlds, I took in place to Northern Euros. And I was fully focused on, making sure I was just warm, ready. I didn't do a single warm-up. I did not touch the apparatus in the hour round. Really? Wow. I didn't touch it at all. And everyone was coming up to me. I was sat on the floor and I was just, warming up, just rolling out. Everyone's coming up to me like, oh, so are you just doing like floor or just doing pump? I was like, oh, no, I'm doing all six. And they're like, oh, okay. The hour round didn't touch. I then did really well in the competition, won the all-around, got another 82 all-round, picked up multiple apparatus medals, Northern European all-around champion, Northern European floor champion, pummel champion, and then picked up another 2 or 3 medals. Wow. Without a single warm-up. And that is purely from the lessons I learned from Japan. Yeah. So then going to Commonwealth Games, I think Team Wales had like a high prospect for me to then like medal at the Commonwealth Games, coming back from, being a Northern European champion like 3-4 times. So, I had high hopes and stuff. And the beginning of the year was okay, but then started to, deal with a few niggles, but it wasn't too bad. And then quite successful with the first domestic comps, and then I make selection for Commonwealth Games, so I make the team. And then during that prep camp, I was suffering with a bad shoulder. So every time I'm lifting my arm up, like I was getting this clunk sound, like clunk, clunk every single time. And basically there was like 2 bones, like going like this on top of my shoulder. So that made doing anything up here really painful, and also ring strength. So my top apparatus are, I'm quite strong in rings, and then I'm not so good on floor and vaults. The other events I'm really strong on. And then I couldn't really do them. And at the time, because coming back from Worlds, I was still kind of suffering with this split situation. Right, okay. So then I literally couldn't train P-bars. I couldn't do ring strength. I couldn't hang on the high bar. And it was just very limited on what I could do. So the whole prep was really tough. I'm a P-bars worker, and I couldn't actually show my team a single P-bar routine. I was doing like just kind of replicating an undersemi one, which is kind of like jumping to one and then doing a Healy out. Didn't do a single undersemi half. It was really tough. But yeah, so the whole prep was not great, to be honest, and going to the Commonwealth Games was just an incredible experience. Really enjoyed it, and everything was really, really good. And I remember marching out to compete for team when I was at Commonwealth Games. So we marched out, felt like just a normal competition, but like still the same kind of nerves and stuff. I don't think nerves really change from comp to comp. For me, they're just kind of the same. No matter how big or small or big the comp is, I think the nerves for me are just kind of the same. So walk out as normal, completely fine. And then first piece was rings, and when they said competing for Team Wales and they said my name, I started tearing up, and I was like, oh, that was a bit weird. Like, why am I tearing up? That's a bit strange. I've never teared up, my whole time competing for Team GB, competed for, Team GB at the Worlds last year, and none of that. And I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. Okay, well, all right. This clearly means a lot to me. And we was in the division before, like, everyone else. I think because the previous cycle, because we came 7th in the team, we was in the other division. Yep. And so there was literally no other teams out there on the field of play. It was just us. And it just turned into a Welsh crowd. And it was insane. Like, the goosebumps, the feeling you get, could not feel a thing. So actually the shoulder felt pretty good at the time.
Right, okay.
But still, like, because of the pain and stuff, I couldn't do Maltese. I couldn't do Azarian Maltese. The cross elements I had to rotate my shoulder like this, and then somehow I was able to do cross. But if I did a cross normally, I just couldn't do it, too much pressure on this joint.
Okay.
So I had to adapt my cross, and if there's a photo out there, and I'm doing cross, this shoulder's rotated, this one's normal, and because like this is rotated, I can't lift my head. So I'm doing Homna cross like this, and I just adapted my routine, and then it was okay. The comp went, as expected, like nothing, amazing. I made the all-around final, made the floor final, and then the morning after, I woke up, and then I went to reach for my phone. My alarm was going off. It was the morning after the comp. I went to reach my alarm. I couldn't lift my arm up to the side bed. I couldn't lift it up to reach my phone. And I used my arm, and I phoned my coach, and I was like, Pete, I can't lift my arm up. I couldn't lift my arm up above this. And I got all around final in 2 days, and then the floor final in 3 days. And I was like, I can't lift my arm. What am I going to do? And my hand at the moment has got 2 splits in. So it's just a nightmare. So the whole day, walked around, saw the dark and trying to like activate the shoulder somehow, trying to get some like, movement in it, got it maybe to about here, but, still, I'm not going to do an all-round final when I can't lift, I can't even present. Yeah. I can't even present to a judge, to let alone do a routine. And then I had to make the hard decision of pulling out the all-around final. Just couldn't do it. And then floor final, made a mistake on my second tumble. That was it. Really enjoyed the experience out there. Incredible. Really enjoyed it, but it was hard to take. Yeah. Really hard to take because, I didn't expect myself to get a medal. I don't expect myself to do that, but I expected myself to perform better. But then again, I couldn't really perform any better because of the situation.
It's tough, isn't it? When you're turning up, mate, and you get to the start line and your main focus is on, is my body going to be okay? You can't focus on competing. It's very, very difficult. It's crazy, Joe, that you had such a successful year in 2021. Second at the British World Championships, Northern European champion. You make the Commonwealth Games, you're very injured, and then you're taken off the squad, did you say, that year?
Yeah, so then it's after commies.
How much of a gut punch is that after you've had such a successful year, and you've been on that squad since you've been, you said 10 years old? Yeah. Must be tough, right?
So I still don't quite understand.
The decision.
Yeah, so after commies, I know I didn't perform well at the commies. So went back home, had shoulder surgery, and it was just a, shave off the bone. So nothing too major. Muscles are intact, no tears. Okay. So it was all good. And I sat at home, and this was when there was Europeans straight after commies. So I'm sat at home with feet up, shoulder in a cast, and I'm watching Europeans, and I'm like, oh, this is like terrible. Felt like terrible. I switched it off, turned it off, didn't want to watch it. And then took myself away from gymnastics for over a month. Didn't think about it, and nothing. And then I just get a text from my coach saying, you've got an APA. Like your meeting, for your funding, and you're placed on squad. And I was like, and then it just hit me. I was like, completely like forgot about gymnastics, took it away, and then I answered the call. I didn't say a word. I just started crying. Like to this day I kind of know why, because obviously all the emotions and stuff. And
so was it a phone call, not even a meet, like an in-person meeting?
No, it was a Zoom. I think it's because no, it wasn't to do with COVID. I think it was just a Zoom meeting.
Do you feel like it would have been better if that conversation was face to face?
No. I think I didn't really. I think because I stepped myself away from gymnastics, and then suddenly the next thing was boom, APA meeting. It was like from one extreme to now it's your funding review, being your place on Team GB squad. Yeah. So then it's just so I said, I can't do this. And then I ended the phone call, and then the beginning of 2023, so a year after commies, then get pulled to the side and said. And my coach said, unfortunately, you haven't been selected to be part of Team GB. I was very shocked. I thought, I can't, I don't know the rules and regulations or anything, but it's very strange. And it was hard to bear, being part of Team GB for a very long time and stuff. And I thought I've, still earned my place and stuff within the team. So then that year, 2023, was really tough. And then I think the back end of 2023, then I really started to change my mindset of like why I'm doing gymnastics. I'm not doing it for them. I'm not doing it to be on Team GB. I'm not doing it for, this. I'm actually just doing it for myself. Yeah. So then, shifted the mindset and just kind of reframed, why I'm doing gymnastics, And then I started to enjoy gymnastics again, and then yes, this year's been really successful. So I've turned it around, and now I'm really enjoying myself again.
Good man. Yeah, it's tough, mate. I think every athlete is going to experience that unless you're incredibly fortunate to have a very, very successful career and you retire at the very top. Someone like Max Whitlock, right? But most athletes are going to go through that experience of either being taken off the team or being forced into retirement. So I think the fact that you went through that after that year where you were so successful seems a bit strange. I'd like to hope that there was some aftercare. I imagine there probably wasn't a lot.
There was like 3 months of pay, and then I had a psych as well. That really helped out. Helped me out.
That's good.
So that was good. So I got I'm thankful for that. And then after that, I had just no contact from anyone. Okay. So that's when I was like, just kind of pushed them aside. And then, Team Wales, they clearly mean a lot to me. Yeah. So, with Team Wales now, they're everything, and that's who I'm with, and that's who I'm competing for now.
Well, it seems like you're in a good place now, mate. Like I say, I love watching the YouTube content. Make sure you keep it up, because there's like nobody doing it. There's not a lot of athletes still doing it, and it's that raw, real training footage. You do a great job of it, mate. You're getting really, really good at it.
Thank you.
Before we finish, Joe, just, I imagine you still have aspirations to compete at the highest level. Right, course, and you want to try and push. Maybe you're going to be pushing for 4 years' time, and you want to compete at the Commonwealth Games in 2 years' time. You've trained with Joe Fraser, I would argue, one of the best British all-around gymnasts that we've ever had. Yeah. What is that difference in level you see watching Joe train, who is one of the best, who competes at all the majors, is always selected, has been at the Olympic Games, is in finals, is a world champion, and then those guys that are that next level down, that are good gymnasts, compete here and there, but maybe aren't as consistent and aren't competing with the very best gymnasts in the world. You get to train with them day in, day out. Yep. What are those differences that you see between the very best and then just a very good gymnast?
That's a good question. Dedication. He's not scared of anything. Hard work. With Joe, he's when I first joined City of Birmingham, there was very different with training down at Falcons and stuff, not many guys, and then training in Birmingham and seeing Joe train for the first time, it made me really realize that, oh wow, this is why he's at this level, crazy guy, with amazing credentials and it's just a work ethic. He's not scared of anything. He's every day he's ready to push. So I think that's what it is. Yeah, just every day, not being scared, dedicated, hard work, and always positive. Like Joe's gone through so much, and he is always positive, and he's always got a solution, and he always takes that positive step forward.
Amazing. What piece of advice, Joe, would you give to a young athlete that's maybe listening now? That is at that period of time, because I'm starting to hear lots of guys that are maybe 18, 19, 20 dropping out of the sport because they don't see a career path. I'm even hearing sometimes from some of the top guys like, hang on a minute, we've made it to the top. I'm competing here at Olympic Games. There's no sponsors. Where are the sponsors? I thought there'd be sponsors. So what would your advice be for someone that's maybe 16, 17, 18? It's maybe not the best guy in the country for their age group, but is one of the top guys, maybe top 10 in the country, love the sport, want to make a career out of it, but maybe they don't have the financial backing that the best guys have. What would be your advice for somebody in that position? Being someone that has gone out of their way to build their own business and financially support their own career through something outside of their gymnastics.
Yeah, I would say, obviously I was very fortunate to find my business, but, finding some sort of a side hustle, whether that's just, working, as to, maybe like, a couple of days a week or a weekend job or something. But in the end of the day with gymnastics, there's not a lot of money in the sport. You can't be doing gymnastics for the money. So if you're not fortunate enough to have funding from British Gymnastics or Team Wales or Team Scotland, then and you need the money, then I would suggest maybe finding a little part-time job or a part-time hustle, or even making some content and stuff. Like you can make a lot of money from TikTok and stuff now. So if you're into gymnastics is a very popular sport and people enjoy watching it, which is why I started doing the YouTube. Because there is an audience out there and there is a path that way for some sort of income. So enjoy what you do, and that's the main priority. Enjoy what you do and find a little hustle, a little side hustle, and just see where it goes.
And do you think that's a benefit, Joe, just to piggyback onto that question with one more? Is it a benefit having something outside of your gymnastics as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think, the period before I had the business, it was just gymnastics. I was Joe the gymnast. Whereas now, I'm Joe the gymnast with a business, with different things. And, I can take my mind off gymnastics. I come home and I've got orders to do. I'm fully focused on that. I'm not thinking about, I've got to do 2 routines the next day. You have that switch off period. So I think it's really important to find, so you're not all your eggs are in one basket. There's different identities and there's, different things that you can do.
Great piece of advice, mate. Joe, where can people find you online?
So Instagram, Joe Cemlyn-Jones, and also YouTube, the same, Joe Cemlyn-Jones. You can find me there.
And what about if they want some Lego?
If they want some Lego, eBay, JCJ Bricks is in my bio. So, I can sort you out with some Lego.
Oh, amazing. Joe, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Top man.
Cheers.